joining us here on Halftime Baseball Talk with Cabo with a couple of days, 3 days before the Major League Draft begins in Atlanta as they continue to keep it with All-Star Weekend, basically ticking off every single college coach. Kevin, yeah, he's on our Lewis Automotive Hotline. How you doing? That's never going to change, right? They're always going to keep it in July now.
They're always going to move it, and the calendars will never line up. The portal dates will offset from the MLB draft. At least they got the moving target of when you have to turn 21 by. They set that at August 1st. So maybe that's the first sign of the MLB and NCAA getting their act together.
Well, it'd be interesting, August, because it used to be a 45-day window. So if you're doing 45 days, maybe we'll get back into June. I don't think we will, though. Arkansas, I think I saw D1 Baseball had the Razorbacks with the second most players that are ranked for this draft, second to Tennessee, which tells you the kind of talent you saw at the Super Regional this year. LSU would have as many players probably available, but they got guys that still aren't draft eligible, and it's the same with the Razorbacks. So will this be a draft where there are 3 Hogs that get drafted the first day or maybe even the first round?
That would be a historical draft for the Razorbacks. I wrote in my article on HawgSports.com, did a MLB draft primer, that there have never been 4 Hogs taking in the top 3 rounds. There have never been 2 first-round picks in the same draft. Arkansas has the potential to have 3 players drafted in the first round. It looks like Gage Wood and Vahiva Aloy are as near of a lock as you can have for the MLB draft to get picked in the first round. I've seen Gage as high as number 14 to the Athletics. It looks like college-heavy teams like the Braves, the A's, maybe the Brew Crew have been linked to Gage so far. The Cubs keep coming up with Vahiva Aloy. We've seen the Cubs with their history of drafting Razorbacks. Of course, they got Christian Franklin, Connor Nolan. They like Arkansas guys. They got Jordan Wicks, even though he went to Kansas State. And then Charles Davalon. He's been mentioned at the end of the first round. Now, it's not like the NBA and NFL, listeners. So there's not 32 picks, and they move to the next round. There are 43 picks in the first round this year when you look at compensation picks, prospect promotion incentive picks, and then competitive balance, because it's all about equality in the MLB. They have to give the small market teams a chance to, play with the big boys. So there's 43, and Davalon I've seen has been linked to the Marlins at number 43. That would make 3. And then Zach Root would be number 4. He's been slotted anywhere in the late second to early third round.
There's guys that are going in the draft, and so they're not going to be back with Arkansas. But then there are some that you kind of wonder about, and you know that they're draft eligible and that the scouts like them. It's just you also wonder. There's still a year of eligibility for some of them, and so they have that leverage, and they can come back and make money. Maybe not make the same amount of money they could have made 2 or 3 years ago, but they still can make money. Thinking Brent Iredale, thinking Justin Thomas Jr. Those are the 2 in terms of position players that I do wonder if. I know that they're draft eligible and very well could get drafted, but I wonder if they may end up coming back.
Yeah, and Perfect Game released their top 500 draft board today. Now, it's important to know the difference between mock draft and prospect list or prospect draft board. Joe Doyle does a 615-player list. It's ridiculous. It's pretty in-depth. But that's just a list, a prospect list of who he thinks the best players in the draft are. So many different variables that go into it. Leverage is the big one. Let's look at Ryan Prager from Texas A&M from last year. He was drafted number 81 to the Angels last year. He did not sign. On Perfect Game's draft board, he's number 259 this year, so he lost leverage. He had the chance to make $1 million, become a millionaire last year, didn't have the best year this season, so he's going to drop down the draft board, and he doesn't have that leverage again. So Justin Thomas, every scout that I've talked to, whether it be National League or American League, thinks the athleticism and what he did towards the end of the season will be enough to get him drafted high enough to where he signs. And Brent Iredale, and Phil, correct me on this, but I think he falls into the Brady Slavens boat. Mm-hmm. He did as much at Arkansas this year that he could probably do. Now, he could come back and put up some better numbers. The batting average fell off towards the end of the year, but he did hit 14 bombs and have 57 RBIs. He had a good on-base percentage, showed a good enough glove at third base that he could stick over there. So I just don't see him coming back to improve anything especially when you have a little bit of leverage like he has. Money always comes into it. I put in my article, it's all about the Benjamins, whether it be with the MLB clubs or the players themselves. So if there's money that's needed and MLB clubs can meet it, that's when the marriage happens. That's when the relationships start getting formed. So there'll be constant back and forth between agents and MLB personnel. There's three other guys that really fall in the category as well. Moving on to the pitching staff, Aiden Jimenez, Parker Coyle, and Ben Bybee. Yeah. Aiden Jimenez, of course, is 1 year removed, or 1+ year removed from Tommy John surgery. Does he want to come back and show that he can be a starter? Can he show that he can be a durable guy that can be relied upon in the professional ranks? That's something that he has to make a decision on. Parker Coyle, if he wouldn't have been hurt, Phil, I think would have been a high enough draft pick that he goes. But Parker, he was number 231 on Baseball America's draft board coming out of high school. He was a draft risk. Didn't really do much his first 2 years, got hurt this year. And Ben Bybee showed flashes of brilliance. Vanderbilt is the one that stands out the most. But then again, there's been times where he throws it over the middle of the plate and gets hammered. So those three guys, I consider there's not enough information, and they're just going to kind of have to wait and see.
Right now, only 3 pitchers have announced transferring in: Jackson Wells, Ethan McIlvain, Jackson Kircher. Are they waiting on the draft to maybe bring more in, or do you think there's going to be a few more pitchers that come in from the transfer portal anyway?
Yeah, I know they're hot on one. Joey Volko from Stanford, he's supposed to make a visit down to LSU. That's the Stanford righty that's in the Cape Cod League pitching right now for Katuitt. He's been up to 100 miles per hour. Problem is his command. It's bad. Arkansas has not brought in a guy that is raw, unpolished like that. You think back to last year, they got Beidelshees and Root. Those guys were established. Those guys had pretty good command of 2 or 3 pitches. Volko has 8 strikeouts and 10 walks so far in the Cape. So high upside, a lot of raw ability. Yeah, he was lighting up draft boards last year coming into the season. And then his strikeout to walk ratio wasn't very good. So what Matt Hobbs can do with these guys, Ethan McIlvain kind of falls in the same category. McIlvain can be a first-round draft pick next year. Lefty up to 97, but he had a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio this year, 47-25, so a little less than 2-to-1.
So, Kevin, I also saw just signs that this big lefty, Joey Lorenzini,
Lorenzini.
He's from Rockin', California. What a town name. It sounds like he might make it to campus. Do you think this is somebody that might be able to help early? And when you talk about a freshman helping early, it's probably in the back, not the back of the pen, but one of the last guys in the pen.
Yeah, it is, especially with the guys that are coming back. When you look at a Gackle, Gibbler, Fisher's going to be looked upon to maybe take a starting role next year. The freshmen that are coming in, they need to come along slowly because it's a different game. But Lorenzini's been 90-93 with his fastball. He had Tommy John early in his career. I think when he was 14 years old. So coming back from that, he's a 2-sport guy, played football, but a good frame, good build. He's 6'5". I've gotten the chance to talk to him. He's a fun guy to get to know, and I think Razorback fans will really like him. If he can come on campus, show the work ethic and the attitude that a lot of these guys come in that they're just ready to work. Carson Wiggins, Steele Lee, the guys that got to throw this year. Cole Gibbler's another example. They got to get their feet wet in their first year and show that they were, could be relied upon in big games and big stretches of the postseason. So I believe he is a guy that can come in and do that. He's on draft boards in the 400 to 500 range. He is leaning toward. He knows he needs some work, and he knows if he comes to Arkansas with what Matt Hobbs has produced, he could be a top 3-round draft pick if he comes and works. So
last thing here before we go, and then we can do this again in a couple weeks to focus a little more on the transfers coming in. But what do you make of Kuhia Waloy learning right field at the Cape and bringing in 3 starters for the outfield? Damian Ruiz, Micah Niu, and Zach Stewart coming in from Missouri State. These are guys who produced big time where they already were. I think Niu is learning center field in the Cape because he was a shortstop that made 33 errors. But there's going to be some competition, and I don't think they want Kuhio to be a DH, but he may end up being one again.
Yeah, the thing with Cujillo is if he wants to play professional baseball field, he needs to take 1,000 fly balls a day. He needs to learn to play right field. He came as a pitcher to BYU, showed he could hit, and that next thing you know, he's all SEC. So that's what the coaching staff said. Go take as many fly balls as you can. Learn how to read the ball off the bat. So Micah Neu could get drafted. He's a triangle guy. He's like Casey Martin was. He could play second, short, or center field. Got that from Tim Corbin from Vanderbilt. So he's a triangle guy. He could play in the middle of the triangle. Blazing speed. He clocked a 4.06 to first base the other day from a righty. That's lightning speed. Good enough arm to play in center field as well. So he may get drafted. I think he was an insurance policy, and then Damian Ruiz was a high-profile target that they wanted to get. Ruiz could slide over to center. Stewart could shift from right to left. The good thing is they'll have some competition like they did last year, and the cream will rise to the top.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. With baseball season in full swing, BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, scores, and even live in-game betting while the games are being played. We keep the dog days of summer rolling with the largest selection of odds on everything. With updated odds on the MLB, UFC, and boxing to tennis and NFL futures, BetOnline remains the best online source for all your sports wagering information. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here.